Excellent. Welcome to the Standard Podcast team, where we raise the bar, rebuild the culture, and call out the lies no one else will. This isn't motivation. This is a movement. I'm Thomas Rowe, and I'm here with my hostess, Aaron Charles Bowers, and today we're sitting down with Brian DiNapoli. Did I pronounce that all right?
It's actually DiNapoli.
DiNapoli. I got to sound out my vowels. Okay, cool. Founder of NILinsight.com, a platform providing resources to student athletes and parents on mental health, drug and alcohol prevention, and navigating name, image, and likeness opportunities. With over 30 years of experience in public sector dedicated to public service, community engagement, and youth development, Brian combines his passion for sports with his commitment to helping young people make healthy choices on and off the field. As a community coach and advocate of athletes' well-being, Brian is building bridges where the roads are out there, where there are no roads out there, connecting athletes, families, and communities to resources they need to thrive. We're diving into the truth behind what it really takes to build identity, discipline, and legacy in sports and in life. Let's get into it. Brian, this is awesome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us. We really appreciate it. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you both for having me, and happy Thanksgiving.
Right. Thank you. You too. So let's start here. You built NIL Insight to help student athletes and parents navigate mental health, substance prevention, and NIL opportunities. What does raising the standard mean to you, especially in the work that you're doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, it's just about trying to get better every day. I like the quote, getting 1% better every day. And we spoke before this and talking about some of our favorite coaches and sports movies. And probably one of my top 3 coaches of all time is Coach V, Jim Valvano.
Totally.
NC State Wolfpack. You know the amazing story about him. I've seen that 30 for 30 survive and advance probably at least 10 times. But what he would do before the season, the first practice, they would emulate winning the championship. They would carry each other on each other's back, climb up to the ladder, cut down the net, and they would visualize success. So to me, that was about raising the standard. The dream becomes a reality. And that's exactly what happened when they shocked the world and they beat Hakeem Olajuwon and won the national championship. I want to say it was 1983.
That's right.
That's about getting better every day. So that's just a story that came to my mind about how he raised the standard, having them believe that they could achieve that title.
That's awesome. And what would you say is the biggest lie or misconception about the culture of the sports industry, which has sold student athletes about mental health, substance abuse, and handling the pressures that come with NIL?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say and I've never worked in sports. I'm volunteering in this. This is really a passion project that everyone, just like you two, have been so amazing and kind and sharing resources that I think athletes get a bad rap overall. People think, oh, the dumb jock, but they're very smart people. And I've never been part of an ecosystem outside of drug and alcohol prevention where I work part-time, where everyone is so giving and wanting to help each other. So I think the biggest lie is that athletes are not spoiled and entitled. Of course, you're going to have a few like any profession. One of my favorite players at UGA is Nick Chubb. He's an awesome running back, got hurt twice severely, once in college and then once in the pros. Came back from ACL injuries a couple times, but he gives back to his hometown of Cedartown, Georgia. He bought the team, the Guardian caps and other equipment to help them. There's just so many great people out there, Livy Dunn, Flauche, the, former LSU athletes. They give back to their student athletes at LSU and help them, as well as Angel Reese comes to mind, who's in the
Sure.
now. So those are just a few examples. And then UGA, one of my favorite players on the team now, Cash Jones, his family has a cement business and he painted all the trucks, the family trucks, business trucks, red and black for the dogs.
I love it.
I'm a fan of. So those are just a few ways of giving back. And then, at Iowa, at the football games that they wave to the cancer patients, the hospitals overlooking the field. One of their players, a lineman, just recently donated $30,000 to that hospital from his NIL earnings. So those are just a few stories that that I thought of.
Those are the stories we need to hear more of. The athletes that aren't selfish, that are giving back to those that need it. I mean, it's such a great privilege to play college sports, and I think most of the athletes see that. They just don't get enough coverage. Where did you see, or how did you see the lie or misconception playing out? And what made you say, I need to build something to address this?
Yeah, well, when I meet someone, I'm thinking, who do I know that can help them? That's what I immediately think of when I'm meeting someone. So I got involved in this back in 2021 when NIL was launched in July of 21. And I just thought there was a void. There doesn't seem to be a lot of information on helping athletes at the time, especially on mental health and drug and alcohol prevention. And I had an issue with that, with alcohol, which I can get into later. But I just felt like there was a void, and I just sort of foresaw a lot of this coming. I didn't realize the salaries and everything would be so huge so quickly. But I just saw sort of a void, that just trying to be a connector. I love to be a connector, and just always trying to pay it forward or just be that force multiplier for good. Like I said, when I meet someone, just who do I know that can help them get better?
Yeah, that's how we met. And you, just in our first initial conversation, you introduced us to some remarkable people that we've even had on the podcast, and they're actually queued up to be on the podcast in the forthcoming weeks. We're going to move on to segment 2, and as we mentioned before we got started here on the podcast, we're going to kind of tag team you, and Aaron's going to take segment 2, which is on identity and legacy. Aaron, take it away.
Okay. I'm so glad to join you too. And I would love to understand, you've spent 30 years in public service, community engagement, and youth development. But beyond NIL Insights and the coaching, who is Brian? And how do you define character, integrity, and discipline?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I'm definitely a late bloomer. I'm the youngest of 4 brothers in my family. My next oldest brother is about 10 years older than me. In some ways, he kind of felt like an uncle. And I've always sort of been the little brother with my friends, even everyone trying to look out for me type thing. So, today I'm a husband, a friend, a coworker. But, for me, it just took me a minute to probably get going. But just that fire that I have inside me, and it especially came out during the pandemic when I saw so many people struggling and hurting. In my current job, I work with a program that helps coming out of jail and prison. So that really means a lot to me, to help the marginalized. When I was younger, backpedaling a little bit, I was bullied really badly, and just being really shy and, just even afraid to ask a question in class, which indirectly down the road led to a problem with alcohol when I was in high school, to try to fit in and that type of thing, go to the football games, go to parties. But generally that would backfire, and I would sort of flip a switch and turn into another person, a person that no one wanted to hang out with. It was sort of like this shy kid flipped over this obnoxious jerk, which happened when I was drinking. So really putting all that, I quit more than 25 years ago. So that's just driven me to help those who are less fortunate, and to help young people going through the same issues that I did when I was younger. So that's just something that really drives me, just to help others, not make the same mistakes that I did.
Awesome.
I love that. That's such a great story. So your tagline is, the roads are out there, we must build the bridges. What does legacy beyond performance mean to you, especially as someone building bridges for the next generation?
That's a great question, Aaron. I think it's a mark that you leave that people won't forget. My dad always taught me the number one way to be successful is to help other people become successful. So just try to be, selfless most of the time. We're perfect, but that's really what I strive to do every day. And one of my favorite coaches, I mentioned Jim Valvano. Another one is Coach Mark Richt, who coached UGA for about, I think, over 10 years. He was an amazing coach before Kirby came in. We won some SEC championships, should have won a national title, but that's a whole nother story. Lost at the last minute against Alabama. And he always talked about the catalyst for greatness is love. So really, just like Corinthians said, it's love is the greatest gift of all. I think we just need to spread more love, especially what's going on in the world. And it feels like we're upside down. I've also done some volunteer work with trying to get both parties to work together better together. So that's something else that I'm passionate about, politics and sports. Right now, sports outweighs politics, but I do try to find ways just to bring people together overall, whether it be different political parties, races, or anything like that. I just feel like that's in my bones to be that bridge builder.
Gosh, I love that. I would love for us to build a lot of bridges in this world based on love. And we definitely need it in politics, but we need it in sports too, as we see out in the world today. What is one truth you wish every student athlete, parent, or coach understood about mental health and substance provision that they're not hearing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. That, you're not a failure if you do have an issue, that you're not alone, that there's other people out there to help you. And I think that's one silver lining to the pandemic was the 988 mental health hotline was created. So they're open 24/7, 365 days a year, especially we're in the holiday season now with Thanksgiving coming up and Christmas and everything else coming up. So if you're feeling alone or don't have anywhere to go, you can text, call 988 anytime. That's something just to know that you're not alone. There's many people struggling. They always say that everyone you meet is fighting some sort of battle. And I totally agree with that. I always sort of go by the motto, life isn't as good as it seems or as bad as it seems. Somewhere in the middle lies reality. And I feel just very fortunate for the things that I have. So, but I know a lot of people, their reality is probably, not good. And I work with people, let's say coming out of jail or prison that are hurting, that have PTSD essentially right when they're coming out of the system. So it's it's challenging, but I kind of relate it to athletes after their career ends. A lot of them can have like PTSD, and I know that's what you all are building. And I love your shorts that you put out there, just about helping athletes succeed at the next level. So that's just something that I'm passionate about. That you're not alone, and that there's cohorts of former athletes that are getting together, such as y'all, that are helping athletes get to the next level.
That's awesome. Brian, I don't want to gloss over what you said earlier, because as we get into this next segment, we're going to talk about advice across stages. You said you've been sober now for how many years?
It's actually been 28 years.
That is remarkable. For those of you that are in the listening audience right now, I've been sober now for a couple of years. I think 3 or 4 years with alcohol, 5 to 6 years with substance such as cocaine and pills. And I really want you guys to understand, and I want to build off what you said, Brian. 98% of the mistakes that I made with alcohol and drug induced, right? So I can attribute a lot of the mistakes that I made through drugs and alcohol. Would you say that, you shared a little bit about your story. Would you kind of elaborate on that as we get into this next segment?
100%. I started drinking. I was probably when I was growing up in the 80s, the drinking culture was just huge. It's like
right.
Pretty much did it. You may be able to relate to some of this. So I felt like I was getting started late, right before my junior year of high school, and just being painfully shy and wanting to meet girls and fit in and that kind of thing. Some of my other friends were starting to drink. I said, okay, cool. The first time I did it felt good. I was like, wow, all my inhibitions went away. But then it just it took more and more to get that feeling. And then I would just flip a switch and black out, not remember what I did. And I feel like I had a guardian angel on my shoulder much of the time, especially when I was in college at University of Georgia. The partying really escalated to a whole nother level there. And back then in the 80s, mid to late 80s, there weren't a lot of platforms or outlets if you didn't drink.
Right.
So that was a big struggle. I think there was one person on our hall that did not drink, but I hear you. I made so many mistakes, and my friends would say they're going to draw straws on who's going to watch me for the night because they didn't know what I was going to do. I would get in fights. I mean, totally different than my sober personality. I think I had my nose broken a couple of times. busted lips and that kind of thing. No one would ever believe it that talks to me now, but it was for me a dream killer, and it just weighed me down. It took me 3 or 4 days to recover, to really feel myself. But then I would repeat that cycle over and over.
Right.
And it just was just such a drain on me. The good news is today, a lot of kids in their 20s are not drinking. They know how unhealthy it is for you. And congratulations to you on your sobriety. I like to tell young people that cocaine is the toboggan ride to hell. It really is. So destructive, and all this high potency weed out there. This isn't our parents' weed or our weed. Back in the day, it's so potent, which is THC and everything. I've met so many moms out there whose son went off to college, got addicted either to cocaine or this high potency marijuana, that they really almost lost everything. Some ended up, unfortunately, committing suicide. So it is a really serious issue. But again, if you reach out to that 988 hotline, they can help with these kind of issues too. But again, congratulations to you. It was the best decision I ever made. When I stopped, really great things in my life happened. I ended up buying my first condominium. I eventually met my wife, who I've been married to for over 20 years.
Awesome.
Found a better job, started volunteering in the community, and didn't have to go on an apology tour the next night. Like, oh my gosh, not last night. I felt like I needed a megaphone, and I just felt incredibly insecure about myself.
Right.
After drinking for a while. So that just touches on it a little bit. I don't think my stories are sensational. However, they're probably relatable.
100%. I had two roommates in college. One of them said, after one or two drinks, everybody's all American. 3 or 4, you're kind of an asshole. And I was like, oh, okay. And then another roommate said to me, Tiro, instant asshole, just out alcohol. And I was like, well, that's not the reputation you want to get. So, that's it's enough about me. But if you could sit down with a high school athlete who's starting to face pressure, whether it's social, academic, or athletic, what advice would you give them about making healthy choices?
No, that's right. And I would say just be confident, stand on your own 2 feet, and don't worry about what other people think about you. That's the biggest thing I would tell young people also. Most people, 95% of people are just thinking about themselves. They may laugh, oh, you're not drinking or whatever, but then they'll forget about it 2 minutes later.
Right.
Just not to make it weird. If you don't decide to drink, just say, hey, I'm just going to have water tonight. Just confidently say that. That's, I think, be patient with yourself. Don't comparing yourself to others is also a huge thing. That, what do they say? Comparison is the thief of joy. When you see everyone's highlight reel on Instagram or Facebook, especially young people, that they're just showing their best self kind of thing. I think it's unfortunately been incredibly destructive, social media, especially for young girls.
Sure.
I think the main thing, don't worry about what people think or what they say about you. Just be confident. I've seen a lot of people not try different things because they're afraid of what people think. I mean, in order to be really good at something, you're going to have to be bad at it first.
Oh, yeah. Yep. What about college athletes who are navigating NIL, social media, and all the pressures that come with the visibility? What do they understand about protecting their mental health and well-being?
Yeah, I think you have to really choose your circle wisely. Surround yourself with people that can challenge you and help you get through those issues. And sometimes you don't have to post everything going on in your life either. I think a little is good. I think, taking that social media break is really healthy. I'm going to start doing that on Sundays, just completely avoiding it altogether. I know you all have this business, and it forces you in a lot of ways to be on here all the time. But I think that's something just get out in nature, put down the phone type thing. I saw something recently, when you have your phone in front of you, when it's not in your pocket, then that's just going to instantly cause stress for you because you're constantly waiting for that dopamine hit for that phone to go off. And especially if you're with a friend or someone at lunch, you're saying that phone is more important than your friend.
Oh, yeah.
For waiting for a call. I would say, get off social media, get outside, try some different things. not post everything every time you have something to eat or anything like that. You don't have to post every update.
Yeah, I have some friends that I always say they can't brush their teeth without talking on social media, right? So, what about for parents who are trying to support their kids through all of this? What should they be looking for? What conversations should they be having?
Yeah, now that's another good question too. I think you have to watch if your child is withdrawn or not interested in the same things, and I think it's really critical. I was fortunate growing up where we always had dinner as a family, and I think that's a lost art. I would really encourage families to get together, sit down, put up the electronic devices in another room, and just talk and get to know each other. I think that's critical. I volunteer at a middle school, and this middle school has started to ban cell phones, and they've had remarkable results. At first, it was challenging, it was difficult, but now the scores and everything are going they're a lot higher than they were previously. And here in Georgia, I think they're going to try this with all middle and high schools perhaps next year. So I think that's something critical. But I just think getting to know each other, talking to each other, I'm in a group at work which has completely transformed my life for the better called Toastmasters. It's an old school way, you've probably heard of it, to become a better public speaker and leader, where we meet. We do meet virtually, but we also meet in person, and we give speeches and provide constructive feedback on those speeches. But you learn listening skills, leadership skills. And I've learned that when you're speaking, you're leading. You don't necessarily have to be a manager to be a leader. You can be a leader in so many other ways.
You know what? That's so funny you say that, Brian, because, when we talk to high school football teams, even college football teams, we say, just because you're not a captain doesn't mean you can't be a leader, right? We're going to turn, Aaron's going to take it from here, which is the rapid fire round. Aaron, take it away.
Okay, Brian. I'm going to say a statement and you're going to finish my sentence, okay? So, discipline equals.
For me, trying to make excellence a standard. Personally, for me, I have hit, knock on wood, at least 10,000 steps every day for about 3 years now. So just trying to make it a standard, not even just a habit, but it's just going to be automatic.
Love it. Leadership equals.
Helping others be the best version of themselves. Again, I've mentioned my father taught me the number one way to be successful is to help other people become successful.
What about faith? Faith equals.
Yeah, I would say faith equals love for family, friends, your coworkers, anyone, even listening to people without judgment. I mentioned the population that I've worked with, justice impacted. I think everyone deserves a second chance and really a better chance.
Legacy equals.
I would say leaving a story that inspires others, getting back to someone like Coach Jim Valvano, the legacy that he left on cancer research and how much money he's raised, and his family's leading that charge. It's remarkable how many millions they've raised for cancer.
Awesome. What is one thing you would never compromise on?
110%. And we talked about it. I will never take another drink or any kind of mind-altering substance the rest of my life.
And then what is one message you would put on the billboard for the next generation?
You touched on it before. My favorite quote is, "The roads are out there. We must build the bridges." Mm-hmm. Not hoarding information, sharing information with each other, pulling for each other, not being jealous of other people's successes. We're all on a different journey.
I love it.
Nice.
Okay, that was my rapid fire. Okay, Thomas, take it away.
Perfect. All right, Brian, we're going to get into the closing, and this is probably the final two questions in the two of the most important questions. Top 3 sports films of all time, according to Brian.
That's right. That's a great one. There's so many. I'm going to put Rudy up there.
Okay.
Rocky. The Rocky movies are amazing. Probably in order, I'd put Rocky 1, Rocky 3, Rocky 4 grew on me, those 3. And then I love Field of Dreams and Friday Night Lights. I read the book. I think that kind of captured the essence of the book.
No question. No question.
That was incredible too.
That's it. I always say number one for me is Miracle. Number two is the original Rocky. Number three is Hoosiers. And four, the honorable mention is Field of Dreams for me.
Those are close. I love all those.
Yeah, I think everyone can relate to them. Hey, Brian, before we wrap up, is there something we didn't touch on today that you feel student athletes, parents, or coaches need to hear about mental health, substance prevention, or navigating NIL safely that we didn't touch on today?
I'm just going to really reiterate it. It's the easiest way. If you need help, dial or text that 988 hotline. I think that's the easiest way to get help. It's free, it's confidential, and they're professionals. They're always going to be out there. I work indirectly with the program, and I've heard great things about it. It's helped so many people. So please, especially during the holidays, if you're feeling down or need help, need someone to talk to, dial or text 988 anytime. And thank you both so much for having me. I really appreciate this.
Awesome. Thank you. 988 team, if you guys are struggling or just need a friendly voice. Brian, where can people connect with you and learn more about NIL Insight?
Sure. Yeah, I have a website, nilinsight.com. That's nilinsight.com. Also on Instagram and Twitter at NIL Insight. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Brian, Brian, DiNapoli, D as in David, I, N as in Nancy, A, Paul, L-I.
Awesome. Brian, thank you so much for sharing your story and your truth. Thank you for taking the opportunity to open it up with us and be vulnerable. If this conversation challenged you, inspired you, or made you think differently, do two things for us, team. One, share the episode with someone who needs to hear this. A student athlete facing pressure, a parent trying to support their student athlete, a coach who wants to build a culture of well-being. Two, connect with Brian on Instagram and his website, which is nilinsight.com. If you're looking for resources on mental health, substance prevention, and navigating NIL safely, Brian is your guy. He's building the bridges that you need. And if you're an athlete, parent, or coach ready to raise the standard, check out our website, blueprintbluechip.com. We help athletes build identity, discipline, and legacy that goes far beyond the game. And if you're ready to get clear on what you need beyond the game, join us on our 3-day reset. It's Win, Play, Show. It's absolutely free, and you can find that at blueprintbluechip.com. It's designed for athletes who are ready to rebuild their foundation. And if this episode resonates with most of you, take 30 seconds and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps us reach more athletes, parents, and leaders who need this message. This is the Standard Podcast, and this movement only grows when we raise the standard together. Talent fades, but truth endures. Let's raise the bar, rebuild the culture, become the standard, and we'll see you next time. Brian, Aaron, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.